Imagine a scenario: you walk into a room full of people, yet nobody sees you. You try to start a conversation, hoping to connect, but the responses are vague, the attention is scattered, and you feel invisible. This feeling of being on the sidelines, of not being valued, can corrode the heart and drain anyone's energy. It happens all too often, but here's the question that must resonate in your mind: do you truly need their validation? Today, I want to share the story of Emily, an ordinary woman with extraordinary strength, who decided she would never again beg for anyone's attention. Hers is a journey of self-discovery, determination, and transformation. Follow along to the end, for through her story, you will come to understand that the most important person you need to win over is yourself. Part 1: The onset of loneliness. Emily had always been someone who valued connection, someone who found joy in making others smile. But over time, she realized that no matter how much effort she put in, those around her didn't always reciprocate. It was as if everyone was too busy to notice how much she cared, to value what she brought. She felt like a background figure, a quiet canvas amidst a stage filled with main actors. One day, while sitting in a cafe watching people laugh and chat, she felt a growing emptiness within. She thought of all the times she had tried to be seen, to be heard, all in vain. That feeling was like carrying a heavy cloud above her, one that never seemed to lift. Part 2: The first turning point. One evening, after yet another party where she had felt out of place, Emily looked at herself in the mirror, and a new idea began to form. "Why do I need this so much?" she asked aloud. In the silence of her room, she realized she had been living for others' approval, measuring herself by the attention she received. She decided, right then, that this had to change, that she had to stop looking outside for what she needed to find within. From that moment, Emily embarked on a journey of self-discovery. She started taking dance classes, not to impress anyone, but to discover something new about herself. Each step was a declaration of freedom, a chance to explore her limits and rediscover her passions. She realized her happiness didn't rely on others' approval, but on her choices and the self-love she was building. Part 3: Rediscovering self-worth. Over time, Emily noticed subtle but powerful transformations in her life. She began to indulge in small acts of self-care she had never tried before: a morning walk, an afternoon at a museum she had always wanted to visit, a cooking class to learn how to make dishes she loved. In each of these activities, she felt something new, something she used to rely on others to ignite: the joy of her own company. And there, amidst the silence of these solitary moments, Emily began to hear her own voice. On one of these walks, she had a profound insight. As she looked at the trees around her, a thought emerged, clear as daylight: the root of loneliness lies in waiting for someone else to make us feel complete. She realized she had been placing her happiness in another person, in a relationship, in a friendship, as if her existence were validated only when she was with someone else. The thought stirred a mix of sadness and liberation, as for the first time, she was ready to challenge this belief. Emily decided to let go of the anchor of the past, the feelings that tied her to the need for approval. She began writing letters to herself, describing her fears, her dreams, and, above all, what she hoped to build without anyone's attention. This became a healing ritual. With each letter, she felt the weight on her shoulders ease, replaced by a growing sense of who she was and who she wanted to become. Part 4: Facing the challenges of emotional independence. But Emily's path was not without challenges. Every internal shift meets resistance, and for Emily, this came in the form of longing and self-doubt. As she distanced herself from those who were once her source of validation, she faced difficult moments. Old friendships seemed to cool, some friends drifted away, others criticized her choices. They said she was becoming selfish for turning away from certain social obligations. Emily questioned if she was making the right choice and felt lost, as if she were standing on unsteady ground. Yet, it was in these very moments that she recognized the depth of her transformation. For the first time, Emily realized she was learning to choose her own company over others' opinions. She understood that, in choosing herself, she was taking a bold step toward emotional freedom. And though she faced insecurities and criticism, deep down, she felt she was finally in control of her life. Emily continued her journey, but now with more confidence. she set boundaries and defined what truly mattered to her. She stopped automatically accepting every invitation and began to ask herself, does this bring me joy? Is this an experience I want to have? This shift in perspective was liberating. Slowly, she discovered that being alone was a precious choice, a path she embraced mindfully, not a fate imposed upon her. Emily began to realize her self-confidence was growing as she stopped pleading for the attention of those who didn't value her presence. She no longer needed to shout for validation. Her energy, her value, were enough. This feeling of personal power, of knowing that the most important person in her life was herself, became the strength that propelled her into the next chapter of her journey. Part 5: Building New Connections from Her True Self. As Emily continued her journey, something surprising began to unfold. She realized that by no longer chasing others' attention and approval, new people started coming into her life. But this time, the connections felt different, more genuine. Unknowingly, her authenticity and independence were attracting those who valued her for who she truly was, not for any image she needed to mold to please others. One day, Emily was invited to a social gathering by a colleague. Before, she would have accepted without hesitation, eager to fit in. But this time, she paused. As was now her habit, she asked herself if this was something she genuinely wanted to attend. She decided to go, but without the old pressure to please or to blend in at any cost. She walked in knowing that, regardless of the reception, her presence was valuable on its own. That evening, as she chatted casually with a few colleagues, Emily noticed something that touched her deeply. People were genuinely interested in what she had to say, drawn to the simplicity and sincerity with which she shared her thoughts. There was no rush to be accepted, she was comfortable being herself. In this honest environment, she found new friendships, people who valued what she brought to the table, not because she filled a gap or fit a mold. These new connections blossomed as a reflection of her internal transformation. Emily understood that by letting go of the need to beg for others' attention, she made room for life to bring her true relationships, where she could be entirely herself. This discovery brought a newfound lightness to her life, and gradually, she found herself surrounded by people who respected her boundaries, celebrated her successes, and, most importantly, saw her without her having to strive for it. Emily began to cherish the beauty of these connections. She realized that the best relationships were those that bloomed effortlessly, respecting her space and built on mutual trust, with no need to beg for attention or diminish herself to be noticed. Part 6: Embracing the Fullness of Solitude. As time passed, Emily found herself feeling increasingly at peace with herself. She had rediscovered the value of her own company and learned to transform solitude into a space of growth and self-discovery. She now understood that solitude was not something to be feared or avoided, but rather an opportunity to strengthen, heal, and learn more about what truly made her happy. One afternoon, as she organized her small apartment, Emily found herself laughing alone, remembering moments that once would have left her feeling insecure or uncomfortable. She recalled times when she yearned for messages that never came, invitations that weren't extended, and the efforts to feel included. But in that moment, with a warm cup of tea in her hands and a book by her side, she realized she no longer needed that imposed sense of belonging. Belonging, she discovered, was something that came from within, something that sprouted from self-acceptance and the life she had built, free from others' expectations. Emily began creating rituals that nourished her soul. Every day, she dedicated time to something that inspired her, without needing to share it with anyone or seek approval. Sometimes, this meant painting a canvas just for herself, writing in her journal, or simply watching the cityscape as the sun set. These moments of introspection brought clarity about who she truly was and what she wanted for the future. Through this process, Emily discovered something even deeper: the freedom to choose herself every day, to decide with whom she would share her energy and, most importantly, to become the best version of herself out of pure self-love. Solitude, which once felt like a burden, had now become a sacred space of self-care and empowerment. Emily had become her own source of happiness. She no longer depended on anyone to feel complete, she had found wholeness within herself. Emily's victory. Emily had walked a path of courage, strength, and self-discovery. She realized that the worth she sought could never be found in others' eyes, but in the depths of her own being. Emily no longer needed to beg for attention, as she discovered that her presence was, in itself, a precious gift. In the end, she became a whole, secure woman, true to herself. Through her story, we learn that self-love is the strongest foundation, and that by finding this strength within, we can face any challenge. Friends, if Emily's story touched your heart, remember that you, too, have the strength to make this change. Each of us has an incredible potential to create our own happiness, no matter what happens around us. Believe in that. I'd love to ask for your support. If you can, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with anyone who might benefit from this message. By doing so, you'll help spread words of inspiration and support to many who need it. Your subscription and like are essential for the channel to continue growing and bringing motivation and empowerment to more people. And please, leave your comments below. I'll respond to each one of you with great care, because your voice matters to me. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. May this message remind each of you that there is a greater purpose for our lives, and that purpose begins with the love and acceptance of who we are. Count on me and on this channel as a place of strength and encouragement. Until the next video, my friends.